presenter today. Gaétan Charland has been around 79. He started attending study groups in 1987 and started two study groups in 1999. Gaétan was president of Urantia Internationale from 2003 to 2013, after serving terms as local and national associations president for years. He now serves as associate trustee for Urantia Foundation and is also a member of the Urantia Association International Governance Committee. Gaétan has a strong interest in study groups and any courses promoting teachers for Urantia book teachings. He believes that study groups are the place where we can learn how to integrate the teachings of the Urantia book and become, in our own ways, teachers ourselves. Thank you, Gaétan, for your always excellent willingness to serve. The session is.
Thank you, Jeannie. Hello, everyone. So I would like first to start with a prayer. It's very important that we start our meeting with something spiritual. So I will share with you a prayer that I wrote. So, dear Heavenly Father, with hearts full of gratitude, we lift our voice in praise and thanksgiving for the manifold blessing you have bestowed upon us. We humbly seek to attain spiritual unity, aspiring to embody and disseminate the teaching of the Spirit in perfect alignment with Michael's divine plan. Grant us, we pray, the encouragement and fortitude necessary to fortify our faith. Empower us to be steadfast ambassadors of your divine presence, ensuring that the truth of your indwelling Spirit is shared far and wide. We beseech you to inspire those dedicated souls working within organizations that promote the teaching of the Urantia book. May they be exemplar of spiritual unity, earnestly striving for enhanced cooperation. Let their efforts be a beacon of organizational harmony, serving humanity's greatest good and advancing the mission of this revelation in our world. Amen. So you might think why I wanted to do a presentation on unity of spirit. Well, probably many of you have heard that there's a talk of unity of organization going on in the Urantia movement. And as I was thinking about spiritual unity, I said, how much do we know really about spiritual unity? How much do we embody this truth in our own life? So I decided to make a presentation on spiritual unity. In the Urantia book, it talks about spiritual unity all throughout the books, but in different ways, and especially address this issue with the master when one of the apostles asked the master about spiritual unity. So my talk will have to be about different aspects of spiritual unity, how it applies in our life. So today we will explore the concept of spiritual unity as illuminated by the profound teachings encapsulated within the Urantia book. In an era characterized by diversity, with the world connected more than ever before, the quest for unity, particularly at the spiritual level, becomes increasingly relevant and imperative even within our own Urantia movement. The Urantia book stands as a beacon of enlightenment, offering a panoramic view of the spiritual landscape that transcends religious boundaries, inviting us to explore the essence of unity that binds us all as human beings on this earthly journey. It elucidates a tapestry of wisdom, merging cosmic insight with practical guidance, advocating for collective consciousness that fosters harmony, understanding, and interconnectedness among all individuals, irrespective of creed, culture, background, or membership in different Urantia organizations. Through his teaching, we are invited to contemplate the profound notion of spiritual unity, concept that goes beyond mere tolerance or acceptance, but embrace a deep sense of respect, appreciation, and reverence for the inherent spirituality that dwells within each soul. It invites us to recognize the divine spark that unites us, celebrating the diversity of human experience while acknowledging the underlying unity that connects us to the larger cosmos. Today, we shall delve into the teaching of the Urantia book, exploring its profound insight on spiritual unity and its implication for our lives and our organizations. We shall seek to understand how this teaching can serve as a guiding light, inspiring us to foster unity, compassion, and a sense of interconnectedness in our personal lives, our organizations, and the world at large. As we navigate this presentation, may we open our heart and mind to the profound wisdom encapsulated within these teachings. Let us embark together on this transformative journey toward a deeper understanding of spiritual unity, recognizing it is not just a concept, but as a transformative force that has the potential to elevate our existence and reshape our world for the better. Accordingly, spiritual unity is the recognition and acknowledgement of the fundamental oneness that exists between all individuals and the divine. It speaks of cosmic family, where every soul is interconnected, sharing a common origin and destiny. This unity extends beyond the physical realm, encompassing the spiritual aspect of existence. It emphasized that despite the apparent diversity in the universe, there is an underlying unity that binds all life forms together. Spiritual unity is not merely an abstract concept, but a living reality that can be experienced and embraced by all individuals. It encourages a shift in consciousness, inviting people to recognize the divine presence within themselves and in others, fostering a sense of kinship and compassion for all beings. In the Urantia book, the concept of unity is central to the evolving and emerging experiential God the Supreme. Every section of this book emphasizes the importance of unity at various levels. Without unity, the universe would cease to exist. The deities always operate in unity, as perfection necessitates it. In the Urantia book, the term unity is mentioned 190 times. United appears 90 times. Unifying is used 40 times. Spiritual unity is mentioned 8 times, and spirit unity is referenced 3 times. In the introduction of this presentation, I've carefully selected 6 quotes to illustrate a fundamental principle. The concept of spiritual unity manifests itself across various levels and expressions. While it was possible to include a broader array of quotation to further underscore the idea of spiritual unity, I am confident that the essence of my message will become clear as we delve into this presentation. This curated selection is designed not only to highlight the multifaceted nature of spiritual unity, but also to set the stage for a deeper exploration of its significance throughout this presentation and our discussion. So the title of my presentation is Spiritual Unity in Us. At the end of this presentation, I want to ask you to ask yourself, in the Urantia movement, do we really manifest spiritual unity in our interaction with each other? In our life, do we live to the principle of spiritual unity? If so, how do we manifest that state of spirit? So we're going to delve into that now. Jesus said, "Nevertheless, I declare to you, except a man be born of the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit." It goes without saying that to manifest spiritual unity with our brother and sister in the Spirit, we must first be born of the Spirit and have begun to manifest the fruit of the spirits in our life. The religion of the spirits means effort, struggle, conflict, faith, determination, love, loyalty, and progress. This quote emphasized the transformative nature of spiritual growth and the importance of personal efforts and dedication. The religion of the Spirit is the highest, is most profound experience known to human being. The kingdom of heaven in the hearts of men will create religious unity, not necessarily uniformity, because any and all religious group composed of such religious believer will be free from all notions of ecclesiastical authority, religious sovereignty. This quote suggests that true religious unity arises from the inner transformation of individuals rather than external structures or hierarchy. When the individual experiences the kingdom of heaven within themselves, they naturally transcend religious division, fostering unity based on shared spiritual values rather than institutional affiliation. The brotherhood of men is, after all, predicated on the recognition of the fatherhood of God. The quickest way to realize the brotherhood of men on Urantia is to effect the spiritual transformation of present-day humanity. This quote underscores the idea that recognizing our common origin as children of God fosters a sense of kingship and unity among all human beings. Understanding ourselves as part of a divine family promotes the realization of our interconnectedness and shared destiny. In the kingdom of the believing brotherhood of God-knowing truth lovers, this golden rule takes on living qualities of spiritual realization on those higher levels of interpretation which cause the mortal sons of God to view this injunction of the Master as requiring them so to relate themselves to their fellows that they will receive the highest possible good as a result of the believer's contact with them. This emphasized the practical application of the golden rule within a community of individuals who are dedicated to truth and spiritual growth. Spiritual unity is achieved when individuals prioritize the well-being and upliftment of others, reflecting a shared commitment to living according to the divine principle. Spiritual unity is derived from the consciousness that each of you is indwelt and increasingly dominated by the spirit gift of the Heavenly Father. The recognition of the divine essence within every individual forms the basis for spiritual unity. When we realize our inherent connection to the divine, we naturally perceive each other as spiritual siblings, fostering a sense of unity and kingship. This was the last of the 6 slides, which I chose, so that we can see that throughout the book, there is talks of spiritual unity. So in the next slide, we're going to look at how the implication of spiritual unity can be affected within our lives. So let's go and look at it. So there are 4 things: compassion and empathy, unity in diversity, service to others, oneness with the divine. Here are the 4 implications to attain spiritual unity. Let's take a look at each one of them. Compassion and empathy. The teaching stressed the importance of developing compassion and empathy towards others. When an individual recognizes the spiritual unity that binds them, it fosters a sense of understanding and empathy for the struggles, joys, and experience of fellow beings. This understanding promotes a more compassionate and caring society. The teaching stressed the importance of developing compassion and empathy towards others. When an individual recognizes the spiritual unity that binds them, it fosters a sense of understanding and empathy. All these quotes there, all these things that are written, in themselves, they will express that unity that must bind us. Next slide. Unity in diversity. Spiritual unity does not imply uniformity. Instead, it celebrates diversity while emphasizing the underlying unity that connects all beings. It encourages embracing differences in belief, cultures, and perspective, fostering an environment of inclusivity, respect for diverse viewpoints. It fosters cooperation and harmonized difference, while it transcends the idea of competition as a mechanism of growth. It also produces coherence and prevents confusion that produce conflict that perpetuates suffering. When the text refers to uniformity, it does not imply that we cannot have some uniformity of functioning in any human organization. In fact, some form of uniformity can be desirable in human organization, but it should be balanced with the recognition and appreciation of diversity. Uniformity in certain processes, procedure, and standards can promote consistency and efficiency within an organization. Service to others. The concept of spiritual unity encourages individuals to engage in selfless service to others. Understanding that every individual is part of a larger spiritual family motivates people to contribute positively to the well-being of others without expecting anything in return. In those who serves, it produces the manifestation of the fruit of the Spirit, which is an expression of unity with the Supreme. Oneness with the divine. Recognizing spiritual unity leads to a deeper connection with the divine. By acknowledging the presence of the divine within oneself and others, individual can experience a profound sense of oneness with the ultimate source of all existence. Now, there are challenges achieved to achieve spiritual unity. Here are a few. Ego and self-centeredness. Human tendency towards ego, selfishness, and a narrow focus on personal interests often obstruct the acknowledgement of spiritual unity. Overcoming these tendencies require inner transformation and a shift in consciousness. The second one, which I like to call the Luciferian way of thinking. The prevailing emphasis on unrestricted personal freedom within modern society plays a significant role in diminishing individuals' sense of responsibility towards the need of others. This trend not only erodes moral standards, but also dulls the sensitivity to the inner guidance offered by the Divine Spirit. By prioritizing personal liberty without bounds, there is a risk of fostering a culture where accountability and compassion are sidelined, undermining the collective well-being and spiritual growth of the community. Now let's look at what are some of the basic principles to attain spiritual unity. First, the recognition of the Universal Father. The recognition and understanding of the Universal Father as a loving and personal source of all spiritual reality. This involves developing a deep and personal relationship with God through prayer, worship, and contemplation. Embracing the brotherhood of mankind. All individuals are part of a universal family, and it encourages the recognition and acceptance of this brotherhood. This involves treating others with love, respect, and compassion, regardless of differences in race, cultures, or belief. Pursuit of truth, beauty, and goodness. The pursuit of truth, beauty, and goodness as essential aspect of spiritual growth and unity. It encourages individuals to seek truth through intellectual and spiritual inquiry, appreciate beauty in the world around them, and try to live a life of moral goodness. Cultivation of the inner life. Cultivating the inner life through prayer, meditation, and worship. It encourages individuals to develop a personal spiritual practice that allows for communion with the indwelling spirit and the exploration of one's own inner spiritual nature. Service to others. The book highlights the significance of selfless service to others as a means to foster spiritual unity. It encourages individuals to actively engage in acts of love, kindness, and service, recognizing that by helping others, they contribute to the overall upliftment and unity of humanity. Harmonizing science and religion. The Urantia book promotes the harmonization of scientific knowledge and religious faith. It encourages individuals to seek a balanced understanding of the physical and spiritual aspect of reality, recognizing that both science and religion can contribute to a comprehensive worldview. These principles and practice, along with many others presented in Urantia book, provide a detailed framework for individuals seeking spiritual unity and growth. It is important to approach these teachings with an open mind and a willingness to explore and apply them in one's own life. Example of spiritual unity concept found in Urantia book. Unity through the indwelling spirit. The spiritual presence within each person establishes a common connection and potential for unity with the divine. Unity in the family of God. The importance of recognizing and embracing the inherent brotherhood and sisterhood of all human beings, transcending differences and fostering unity based on our shared divine origin. Unity in worship and prayer, engaging in personal worship and prayer as a means to connect with the spiritual realm. It highlights the power of collective worship and prayer, where individuals come together in a spirit of unity to seek spiritual guidance, express gratitude, and uplift one another. Unity through love and service. Genuine love for one another, coupled with selfless service, can bridge the differences, dissolve barriers, and create a sense of unity and harmony within communities and organizations. Unity in pursuit of truth. Sincere and open-minded search for truth can lead to a deeper understanding of reality and foster unity among truth seekers as they share the insight and experiences. Unity within the Urantia movement. Division within the Urantia movement that concern different organizations, which have the same mission and purpose. Resolving this issue will require effort to transcend biases and prejudices, embracing a broader perspective on interconnectedness. Ideas that promote organization unity based on the teaching of the Urantia book. First, cooperation and collaboration. Encourage individuals and groups to work together, recognizing that unity is achieved through collective efforts and shared goals. Respect for diversity. Embrace the diversity of perspective, talents, and backgrounds within the organization, recognizing that unity does not mean uniformity, but rather a harmonious blend of different strengths. Common purposes. Emphasize the overreaching mission or purpose that unite the organization, reminding members of the shared vision and values that guide their action. Effective communication. Promote open and transparent communication channels, ensuring that information flows freely and that all voices are heard and valued. Servant leadership. Encourage leaders to adopt a servant leadership approach, focusing on supporting and empowering others rather than asserting authority, which fosters a sense of unity and collaboration. Now, I have, with the help of, you all know ChatGPT, I gave it something, so it helped me write a little story to illustrate unity of spirit. So I want to share that story with you. I've modified it though. So this is the story of two organizations that were competing against each other for notoriety, human and financial resources, as well as territories. Wow, who knows? Do you know any other organization that is like that? I know two, maybe more. So once upon a time, there were two competitive organizations with the same structural purpose, each seeking to spread the wisdom and knowledge of the Urantia book. Although they share a common goal, they often disagree and consider each other as rivals. As you can see, they're pulling the circle together, one on one side, one on the other. However, one day, an unexpected event occurred. The leaders of both organizations receive a mysterious message asking them to come together to discuss a collaboration opportunity. Intrigued, they decide to set aside their difference and meet. During this meeting, they realize that they share a similar vision of spiritual unity and organizational unification. They understood that their rivalry only served to divide those who sought truth and understanding. Guided by their shared love for the Urantia book and their desire to share its teaching with the world, they decided to merge their organization. They created a new entity, a powerful alliance that would unite their strength and resources to achieve their common goal. This merger was not without challenges. The members of both organizations had to learn to work together, set aside their differences, and embrace the diversity of their belief and spiritual practices. But over time, they realized that the diversity was a strength, as it enriched their understanding of the Urantia book and spirituality in general. By joining forces, they were able to reach a wider audience and share the teaching of the Urantia book with even greater scope and depth. Their spiritual unity and organizational unification became an inspiring example for other spiritual groups who also sought to transcend divisions and work together for the common good. Over time, this new organization became a source of inspiration and guidance for many people searching for truth and meaning in their lives. It became a beacon of spiritual light, guiding souls toward a deeper understanding of their existence and their relationship with the universe. Thus, through their willingness to overcome rivalries and unite in a spirit of collaboration, these two competitive organizations realized the importance of spiritual unity and organizational unification. Their story became a living testimony to the power of love, understanding, and cooperation in the quest for spiritual truth. That's a very nice story. Let's hope we can come to that same kind of story with our own self. Remember, a house divided within itself cannot stand. I'm not inventing that quote. It's there in the book for us to read. There's a good reason why it's there. Now, I'm going to share with you part of a document. In fact, it was taken from the Constitution of the Urantia Brotherhood when it was created. Inasmuch as this is our most solemn conviction that the comfort, happiness, and well-being of man will be enhanced by the creation of an organization devoted to the purpose hereinafter expressed, and inasmuch as it is our considered judgment that the purpose hereinafter expressed may best be accomplished through the mutual assistance and association of a body of people working together for a common cause, we do hereby unite together as a voluntary association and fellowship under the name of Urantia Brotherhood. And we do hereby adopt and establish this constitution of Urantia Brotherhood. We have to go back sometime to the beginning, where it all started, to give us direction of where we're going. The Urantia book doesn't say as much about origin, history, and destiny. I believe so. Do we have genuine spiritual unity in the Urantia movement? That's a question I'm asking myself today and before, the day before, and we'll probably ask again tomorrow. Ask yourself this question: do we have genuine spiritual unity in the Urantia movement, or just a beautiful word that we use? So I'm going to read to you a conclusion of my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Second. Gonna shift my screen here. Well, gonna shift my screen. Oh, okay. I'm gonna stop this. So frequently we have heard the argument of spiritual unity being used to curtail debates about the actual meaning of organizational unity, juxtaposed with brotherhood unity. In my perspective, these two aspects are intricately intertwined, akin to the figure of the same hand. One cannot exist without the other. The appeal written by Sue Sekambi, striving to foster unity between the Fellowship and Urantia International, makes it evident that organizational unity necessitates spiritual unity. Years ago, when our two organizations convened at the Foundation to discuss unity, it was proposed that we temporarily set aside our loyalty to our respective organization and ask ourselves what would be most beneficial for the revelation. Regrettably, nothing substantial was proposed, and instead, we justify action that ran contrary to the ideal of spiritual unity, detrimental to the revelation's welfare. Today, the idea of organizational unity has surfaced again. Spiritual unity means striving for the loftiest spiritual ideal, with Jesus serving as a guiding light in pursuit of that ideal. In my understanding, spiritual unity, it entails living, thinking, and acting in harmony with my highest allegiance, God. I endeavor to do God's will in everything I undertake, including my responsibility toward the revelation. Organizations are the mean to an end, and that end is the dissemination of this new revelation of God to the world. This is our collective mission, and it is the responsibility of every individual who believes in this revelation. Spiritual unity requires us to dedicate our best effort to foster the welfare of the revelation and to set aside personal agendas for the greater good. Spiritual unity signifies readers and Urantia organization collaborating for the revelation's welfare and its mission. Spiritual unity demands cooperation over competition, as we often see among different Urantia organizations. Spiritual unity necessitates ending the duplication of projects and efforts solely for the promotion of individual organization. Spiritual unity implies working as one for a common cause. Spiritual unity means putting unity and cooperation above all else when times comes. Spiritual unity calls for us to genuinely embody the master teaching of the Father of the God and the spiritual brotherhood of humanity. For those of us who have chosen to embrace the teaching of the Urantia book and actively participate in this mission, we are the apostle of this new age. Therefore, We must live and act as genuine and resolute children of God. As the Revelation states, the world needs to see Jesus living again on earth in the experience of spirit-born mortals who effectively revealed the Master to all people. Shouldn't we, as a united movement, strive to show the world this picture? Shouldn't we endeavor to stand united in the face of diversity? For such challenges will inevitably test our commitment. We can draw inspiration, for example, set by the apostle, who eventually united with the disciple of Abner. They did not think or act in the same way to be together. What are we waiting for to emulate their unity? And not only them, even the Midway joined together as united group. Even the deity of paradise unite together to work. They're not separate. One of the primary impediments to attracting young peoples today is our failure to maintain our idealism and showcase a united brotherhood. Let us learn from history and not repeat the mistakes of the Christian church. I'm done. I said my piece. I rest my case. So maybe some of you have ideas or questions. For me, unity, it's been a long road ahead. In fact, it's been in my mind since the split, if I can say that much. And I'm a businessman, so I know that unity is essential in an organization to pursue a mission. I don't believe in duplication. I don't believe in competition in the Urantia movement. And if you go in the Urantia book and you look about competition, it will tell you higher civilization don't use competition. Only the lower civilization use competition as a means to progress. So who are we? Are we the lower kind or are we the higher kind? Can we oppress higher ideal or do we always rely on the lower ideal to progress? Unity requires effort, requires a lot of courage in the face of adversity, conviction. Unity requires that we go in. Are we really doing the Father's will, or are we doing our own will when we promote our own agenda? Okay, I've talked enough. Yes, Guy.
Well, thank you, Gaétan. It's a great call for a spiritual action. And it's amazing that with these incomparable teaching, we don't get it sometime. And I think you addressed that really well in your presentation, that unity start within and conflict start within. So if we don't resolve our inner conflict, it's pretty hard to achieve. We can have the goal to be unified, but it's quite, it becomes unfeasible if we don't look at ourselves and the obstacle that we face in trying to have a better communication with God, better communion, better collaboration. And obviously, like many of us, when I got the Urantia book, I was in awe. I call it the wow book. And the minute I went to readers, I was shocked to see that there was a split. That was in 2000. And that created not a bad impression enough to stop me, but it kind of gave me a cold shower. I couldn't believe it. In fact, and what's interesting is that 23 years later, it would be good to do something. We know we have eternity, but it would be good we do it here now, and we stop diluting our energy and doing the same instead of coming together and use our talent to do something together. We know that teamwork is a great challenge. Like you, I have a business background, And when you have employees and they fight, your business cannot go very far. So I think this is important. And what you address as well, the appreciation of having people that are different from us. We will get there because in the constellation, that's all the work we do is about learning to deal with other people that are different. So why don't we start now? So I appreciate what you did. You brought it in a really good way. It's not aggressive. It's an invitation, not something we impose, and it needs to come from within for each of us. Thank you.
Merci, Guy. Thank you. Yes, Marvin.
Well, first of all, bonjour, Gaétan, and thank you so much for your articulation. As I put in the chat, I think you've done a brilliant job at articulating the philosophy, the justification, the need for unity spiritually and on many, many levels. So thank you. Please, I would love to see not only the recording of the video for us to share with people, because this deserves a much larger audience, but I'd like to see a transcript so I can look at it and study it, think about it carefully. You covered the subject comprehensively, from spiritual unity, which is the core of any effort to accomplish any other level of unity, including organizational unity and unity of accomplishments and purposes, and the accomplishment of the purposes of this revelation that the revelators have for us as an evolutionary movement. The one thing that I did not hear articulated that I did want to sort of toss in, and before I say that, I'd just say, you know, many of us have been concerned about this issue for decades. I remember back in 2005, Robert Burns, who was the president of the fellowship at that time, and I was the chair of something called the Liaison Committee on the fellowship's end. We went to Silver Springs and met with the foundation, with the trustees. And peace really was generated initially, the efforts in that gathering. And we formed SEPO, bless his heart, came forward with the idea, and we formed the Standard Reference Text Committee, which to date remains probably the most singular collaborative endeavor between the fellowship and the foundation to maintain a pure and consistent text of the revelation. So, you know, many of us have been concerned about this for decades. There's one part that I felt could have been emphasized in your presentation. We can talk about spiritual unity, which is unity in our relationship with God and how it affects our interactions with each other. We can speak about unity on the level of ideas and diversity on the level of ideas, intellectual content, our opinions about things. And there's so much diversity there. You look at Jesus' apostles and the followers of John, they had to work for 2 weeks to accomplish some minimal degree of cooperation on the idea and on the project's level. And they worked at it very, very hard. So then there's cooperation on the level of values, which I think is easier for us to accomplish because that comes from our relationship with God. What are the values that drive us in our service efforts and in our relationships with each other? The issue that I did not hear mentioned sufficiently is the highest level of unity, which is the level of relationships, living relationships among us. And for me, there's a problem, a functional problem in our movement that remains still to be remedied. And it flows from the spiritual unity, from our relationship with God. And that is, very much like in the world, we exist as two siloed communities, two separate communities that do not mix and interact, with the exception of some few leaders who really try to interact with each other. That's a deplorable situation, and it will plague us and divide us going forward until it is remedied. we simply must have my sense, we simply must gather in a single large international gathering every few years as a joint community, as a unified community. The reason for that is not to join our organizations. The reason is to be in relationship with each other, because out of those living relationships comes trust, comes coming to know each other, comes coming to love each other. And out of those unified relationships as a single community of folks who believe in the revelation, will flow all the other forms of unity, including ideational cooperation across our divisions. And you're right, we will not get over the differences of opinion on things. What's different is that we will love each other and be with each other and enjoy friendship and company with each other. And then we will be able to collaborate and cooperate despite our differences of opinions and priorities, right? Which is what Jesus and the apostles and the followers of John were able to do after they met. So for me, the highest priority is a single international. There's organizational unity and getting the organizations to collaborate, and even possibly in your story, which I love, forming a single unified organization to accomplish and maximize our use of resources financially and intellectually and spiritually. But even more important, I think, initially is the establishment of a context for people to form relationships and remedy this situation of two separate communities and come together as a single community. Then we will solve the problems of organizational cooperation and even unification, as well as presenting a united front to the whole world. Because you're right, unless we are joined as one living fellowship together, in spiritual fellowship, spiritually unified and loving each other, the angels cannot work with us effectively to accomplish the purposes of the revelation. They're just hampered, they're hobbled. So I love what you're doing and what Sue is doing, and I pray every day for a large gathering a few years down the line for all of us together. I'm committed to working as hard as I can on that end purpose, and for the joining of the organizations and the ending of this split in communities. Thank you. And thank you for allowing us to share on this.
Thank you, Marvin. Of course, I could have expanded more the presentation on human relationship. In fact, I did so when I did the presentation on the fatherhood of God and brotherhood of men. There are different concepts in the Urantia book that promote that unity, and the brotherhood of men is one of them, through the unity with God. It belongs to each of us to go back inside of ourselves and see what are we doing exactly, really, to unite with our inner spirit. What is our goal? What is our ideals? I wanted here to portray some ideals of unification, what it can achieve. And if we don't have a high ideal with this movement we are in, if we don't promote that ideal, we'll never unite together, because we're going anywhere that anyone proposes. We need true leadership that has this highest ideal of unification for the welfare of the relation and its mission. And if we cannot achieve this, I believe the mission that we're supposed to be doing we'll have to wait for another generation. But do we want to wait for that long, seeing what's coming ahead of us? We know that the world at this time is changing, and democracy is on the go. If we envision an era where those dictator runs the world, and it could happen, how are we going to be surviving this era if we don't show unity? You know, we have to see far ahead of what's coming. But anyway, there's much more to explore. And I guess the unity thing could be something, maybe we could have a conference, 1 week or 3 days conference that would focus on unity, to explore all aspects of unity, as well as human relationship, God relationship with us, or God with us, or the divinity, how they have relationship with each other.
I think it's an excellent idea, Gaétan, and I'm entirely in agreement with you. you have to articulate a vision first, and you have done that brilliantly, calling us to this higher ideal. And then for me, the next stage is to actually gather together, to form friendship, to form trust, and to begin to trust each other enough to be able to collaborate toward organizational unity. So these are all married attempts here. They're all synergistic. So thank you.
Thank you, Marvin. Yes, Louis.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Gaétan, for the presentation. I would like to share 3 ideas. First of all, I hope that everyone participating here today is familiar with the background and the reasons why there is a lack of unity. I'm not sure that everyone is, so providing some background could have been useful, because those of us that have been part of this community for a long time understand where you're coming from, but there might be a lot of people that do not really understand what we are talking about. And I speak also a little bit from experience, because when I was collaborating with the International Association, I came across very often with people from the grassroots of the community who didn't have a clue about the difference between foundation, fellowship, and association. So I think it's something that would be useful to provide perhaps at the next opportunity. And the reason why I bring that up is because I think it's very important that we avoid becoming an echo chamber. I would say that any sensible Urantia book reader, student of some time that has been trying hard to really absorb the deeper meanings and values contained in the Urantia book will agree with every word you've said. But I think we need to look back at what are the issues that created the divisions in the first place and that continue alive and kicking today. And the last time I remember there was a failure in uniting the organizations was linked to not ideals, not values, not principles, not common shared visions and things of that nature, but really very concrete issues that were conflicting from the perspectives of very specific groups of people that are the decision-making levels within the organization. And if we continue to ignore that reality, there will never be unity unless we wait for another 20 or 30 years when generations have changed simply by age and because people start dying away and graduating and going to the mansion worlds. And instead, if we want to today have a meaningful conversation and we just look at the recent effort that Sue was trying to pursue, one of the questions that I asked and never really got answered, for example, which for me is one of the major ones, is what about the duplication of effort of publishing the book? What about the duplication of effort in doing events that are competing for participants and all of those things? I know that those are very hard issues, and maybe this is not the forum to go in great depth about them, but I believe that, and this takes me to the third point, which is following a little bit what Marvin was saying and a little bit the idea of how organizations that are effective run, including businesses, if you have shareholders in a company that are in disagreement about the future of the company, it doesn't matter what the managers of the company try to do, it doesn't matter what the employees are trying to do united, the business will not succeed. And so that leads me to the third point, which is also something that I've seen over the years. And just for context, I've been reading Urantia book for 30 years, and I've been in these communities for more than 20 years, I think. And what I've seen very clearly is that at the grassroots level, there's a lot of unity, and there's a lot of common projects, and there's a lot of collaboration and loving relationships and deep ways in which people are doing things and sharing. And even if there's sometimes disagreements on Facebook forums, for example, and whatnot, there's a lot of stuff that is being done through voluntary hard work with people with love in their hearts and really goodwill. But it seems that as we structure things and go on to the bureaucracies of the organizations, things start getting a little bit complicated. And that is where we need to start looking a little more closely and perhaps harder to try to ask ourselves and consult with the grassroots, how can we serve you? because in the end, all of these organizations are there to serve. So those were the points that I just wanted to share today.
Thank you, Louis. Of course, we could have spoke about history, but I don't believe it would be my place to talk about history because each side has its own history, own ways of telling the story, and that would complicate things. This is why I address this issue with spiritual unity first. If we're united spiritually first, the other problem can easily go away if we really focus on our unity at the spiritual level. When we don't unite spiritually, then we see all the other things as encumbrance, things that are, oh, it's my way, oh, it's your way, I want this, because my idea is better than you. We have to overcome those ideas that we have. This is where sometimes, this is why I made this presentation a Luciferian way of thinking, because even if we don't agree with this, we were raised in this environment, in this culture that promotes self-liberty. But whether we agree with it or not, it happens. And all in our dealings, most of the time, that's what we're doing. We want to promote our own ideas and not accept the idea of the others. As president of UAI for 10 years, I've seen what diversity, I've seen the split, what it can cause, the competition for resources, the duplication of all kinds of projects, how they are detrimental to the revelation, not to the organization, even to the organization in some ways, but mostly to the revelation. What is our main purpose? Is it the organization or the mission that's supposed to promote? Most of the time we forget about the mission. We get more allegiance to the organization than we do have to the Urantia book and its teaching. We forget who we are. And this is why for me it was always a challenge, to promote the mission. Instead of fighting for, oh, I want this, I want that, we should have this, we should have that. But when I traveled internationally, I could see the problem that were caused by division. Without people knowing this story, they were the victim in some ways of our lack of unity at the organizational level, but mostly at the unity of spiritual level. I truly believe that if we are spiritually united, we will surmount all the challenges that will be put forth. Because when men unite with God, nothing is impossible. That's my belief. I have faith in that. But thank you, Louis. All this could be covered into a conference, where all aspects that come together. It's a conference like this, it has not enough time to look at all these angles. But I just wanted to make sure that people understood. First, there's spiritual unity. And after comes the rest. God first, allegiance to God first, allegiance to Michael first, allegiance to his mission, and then the rest comes forward. Is second. An organization is only a mean to an end. It's not the end of it.
In other words, we need to understand that the leaders of the organizations are not the shareholders, that God is the shareholder.
Right. You're right. Thank you. Yes, Vincent.
Well, thank you. Conversation is gotten very deep, maybe on a more fundamental level. Just the example of everybody being here is an example of unity. You said throughout your whole presentation many words that maybe I can mention again. The unity is common purpose, common goals, which I think most of us have here. And I think that's a fundamental foundation for unity. But I remember a phrase from one of my old college courses, and I think it's the supreme challenge of Father, the supreme challenge of every organization. And I want to talk briefly, I didn't know there were competing ideologies within the Urantia world community. But the phrase was, and here's Father's chance, and his goal to overcome is free agency, of course, which creates the diversity and the disunity. is that his goal, any organizational goal, is to take diversity, tension, and conflict and integrate it into a cooperative effort. That, I think, is the main goal of Father in Heaven, of all of the different Urantia communities, I guess. And I liked what you, Marvin, you mentioned the disciples sitting at the table of the Last Supper and whatnot. I think we can say we all sit at the table of Christ. It's just that some of us like different portions of the meal. That's it. We emphasize it a little bit, but we still have a foundation, the foundation of Father, brotherhood, and service and whatnot. Now, I mentioned I didn't realize that on a worldwide basis, and I visited classes on many of the organizations through the Zoom. I didn't know there was a competition there. And I guess what bothers me about that unification of all of these organizations is that will we eventually have one person? Are we going to have a Urantia Pope? Are we going to gravitate towards the person who speaks more eloquently, who has more knowledge, and therefore we look upon him upon the decisions we make, and therefore did we lose diversification? I worry about that. So anyways, those were some of my thoughts for today. And believe me, unity without being united, or what's the phrase, I forget, was here today. And thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. Well, you make a good point. Do we want the Pope? Well, we have rules and bylaw in our organization that prevent that. In UAI, we have election every 4 years, and the maximum term of a president is 8 years. And he could be replaced 4 years, or he could be demoted before that if he doesn't do his job well. So we have rules in place that guarantee that these things don't happen, that we don't become like a church with, priests and all that dictate. And if you remember at the last of my presentation, when I suggest unification of organization, the leaders are servant to the others. They rely on the readership, on the membership for direction. But the leader need also to have a vision, and he need to carry that vision. And that vision has to do with the mission that has been given to us with the Urantia book, to disseminate the teaching of the Urantia book through many means: study groups, conferences, giving books to university, to library. All kinds of projects can promote the teaching of the Urantia book and disseminate its teaching. There's a proverb not in Chinese, but in Africa that says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. We want to go far. We don't want to go fast. We want to go far. This is a 1,000-year project. We need to be together. We need to show the world that we can be together for that long period of time. We'll be passed away, but what do we leave to the rest of the world? What do we leave to the next generation as an example? Are we spiritual in our own living? Are we just intellectual in our way of expressing the Urantia book? We need to go back inside of us and ask those hard-to-answer questions. This is a call for us to go back inside, to say, am I really united with God in everything I'm doing? Or is it my will sometimes that prevail over his will? Those questions need to be explored with each individual. But thank you for your comments. Yes, Marvin.
So my thoughts are directed back toward Luis and the issue he brought up, which is what is the elephant in the living room that divides us historically? And I'll make two observations. First, I'll make two observations. One is, the text, our wonderful text, informs us that the true understanding of any situation must involve a sense of origin, history, and destiny. You're pointing us to our destiny, Gaétan. We must look at our history, and we must look at it practically, and we must look at it with an eye toward our destiny, where it is God is calling us to go as a movement, where it is the angels of the churches in progress and all of the core are calling us to go as a movement for the accomplishment of the purposes of this revelation. That is our destiny over the next 1,000 years plus. But we have to look at the history. For me, this passage that I just put in the chat box has been absolutely seminal for understanding what Lewis is raising for us. It's a description of, it's a brilliant description of what the followers of Jesus and John did for 2 weeks. They say many other minor matters were considered and their solutions unanimously agreed upon. These 24 men had a truly remarkable experience these 2 weeks when they were compelled to face problems and compose difficulties without Jesus. They learned to differ, to debate, to contend, to pray, and to compromise. And throughout it all, to remain sympathetic with the other person's viewpoint and to maintain at least some degree of tolerance for his honest opinions. If we're going to look at the history and deal with the issue of two organizations publishing the text, which is, that's the elephant in the living room, Luis. I appreciate you bringing it up. But it's not the primary matter. The primary matter is what Gaétan is talking about. That's our destiny. That's our methodology for resolving the history and moving toward our destiny, right? Is we have to do what these apostles and followers of John did. That's why the conference is so important, because what these men learned to do is what we need to do, and that is trust each other. Be in living relationship till we understand each other's viewpoints, and we work together commonly on the solutions to the pragmatic issues that have divided us, right? They will not be hard to resolve. I can think of the solutions right here, right now. They're not hard to resolve. If we have relationships of love and trust, and we work together toward the pragmatic resolution of the historic issue that has divided us, we'll solve it maybe 2 weeks of hard effort, maybe a little longer. If we have goodwill and intention to overcome the obstacle, it'll get overcome. And then we can move forward with power and with spiritual energy toward the accomplishment of the destiny that the revelators want for us to reach for.
Thank you, Marvin. Thank you. Good point. Very good point. Not only that, what you said before about the angel of progress in religion, we know that they were in charge of the revelation for the next 100 years. In fact, the angel of religion and then the angel of progress. And like you say, if we don't work toward unity together, going about this mission, well, how can they help us effectively? They're handicapped by our own handicap of loving each other and coming together as one for the sake of God, for the will of God. So this is very important that we stay focused on where we're going.
Well,
Yes,
and part of seeking this spiritual unity is seeking the guidance of our angelic benefactors. That's part of this as well.
Exactly. Thank you. Wiggy.
We are the world. We are the children who come together at one. Well, there's a wise man. It's the only paper on a human being beside John the Baptist that kind of give us hints of a solution. He said, successful living is nothing more or less than the art of mastery of dependable techniques for solving common problems. The first step in the solution of any problem is to locate the difficulty, to isolate the problem, and frankly, to recognize its nature and gravity. We know where the problem is, and there's some people that go around and even say, until I die, there will be no unity in the Urantia movement. That's pretty amazing to say that. So this lack of unity create a spell on the Urantia movement. And I agree that until we find that, we don't receive the help from above that we're supposed to receive. So it will be good to locate the difficulty, to isolate the problem, and not make it the problem of all when it's just a problem between a few individuals. And the other thing, it says truth is coherent. Lack of unity is not coherent. Beauty is attractive. Lack of unity is not attractive. And goodness is stabilizing. Lack of unity destabilize this movement. Amen.
Merci, Guy. Merci. Well said. Yes, Don.
Yes, so as I listen to the presentation and various comments, I'm trying to get a handle on what is meant by collaborative effort. Collaborate to what end? When we speak of unity of purpose, what is our purpose? You mentioned that we need to have a vision and a mission. And for as long as I have been involved with the Urantia movement, I have never heard that clearly defined. For instance, it's often said that one of the things we need to do is to get the Urantia book out there and get the teachings out there. Does that mean the whole book and just start teaching anything and everything? What is that mission? And then, to me, spiritual unity can only be had by being a spiritual person. And a spiritual man who has gotten the mind of Christ does not continue to cry about past errors that have been committed by someone. And I often hear, we've got to heal, we got to go back and get apologies and find out for the, well, a spiritual man has enough wherewithal within himself that he says, we've got work to do. And we cannot continue dwelling on what somebody did to me 20 years ago. There are people coming into this movement, like one brother said, he said, I don't even know about this. I didn't know that there was any division. But yet there's some people that want to say, well, let me introduce you to all of this stuff that happened years ago. And while we are twirling around this negativity, there are people out there in this world who are looking to hear the message of the master while we're crying about what happened 20 years ago. How can any organization ever move on? Now, paper 190, to me, crystallizes everything that we need to be doing. And it says the world needs to see the master living again. Jesus needs to be resurrected from the tomb that traditional Christianity has buried him in. And I rarely hear an effort made talking about what are we going to do to resurrect Jesus from the tomb that he's been buried in for decades. You know, right now, that this is a time I have never heard so many people talking about Jesus in so many different parts of the world ever before. I'm even hearing of rock musicians, hardcore heavy metalists, people who are buried in the arts, folks that you would never think would ever talk about Jesus are talking about him now in ways that I've never heard this, because I'm in tune with what's going on all over the world. And while these people are hungering for hearing the master, we here with the fifth revelation are figuring out, how do we get organized? What do I say? What do I do? So the solution to our problems aren't that difficult. Marvin said they weren't that difficult. And I think that if we are truly desiring to move the world, then we need to get out of our own thinking and see, what did he ask us to do? See, if we can find out what did he ask us to do and concentrate on that, that should be the mission. Because we don't have enough time in our short life to, on our own, to move this world towards light and life if we don't jump on this now. The folks, other people are moving ahead with their love for the master, and they need this accurate knowledge that we have to help them move up to understanding why he came here and the beautiful future we have before us. And his beautiful example, they need to be seeing within us. We all need to be walking Jesus of Nazareth. And that's what the paper says. People need to see him living again through us. But if we're not living the life of Jesus, they're not seeing it through us. And they're going to get it through mainstream Christianity that has a very primitive view of what Jesus is. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Well, I could retain a lot of what, yeah, amen. But
Donald for Urantia Pope.
But we do have a mission.
Jesus for Urantia Pope.
Yeah. But we do have a mission in the organization. We do have a purpose. I've seen those two purposes from the fellowship and the UAI put together on the same screen. We do have the same purpose. And Rick Lyon was there as a witness to that. We were there together in that same room when that was shot on the screen. We have the same mission to disseminate the teaching of the Urantia book. But as individual, each of us should have our own mission to live our life as Jesus asked us to live it. That's personal. But as an organization, we have a purpose, we have a mission. Sometimes we lack the ideals. We lack good leadership. We have all kinds of leaders, sometimes leaders that are good at organizing things, putting things together, but they lack the vision, the far-reaching vision in time of what we're supposed to achieve. We need to have that vision clear in our mind. That's the direction we're going. And I agree with you. When we talk to young people about the story of what happened, that gets very complicated. I never dwell in that. I don't want to dwell in there. I'm past that. I want to move ahead. I don't want to be, shackled to the past. Well, that history is not mine. I was not there when I was a member of the Brotherhood then, but I was not there with the people that caused the split. I don't care what they did at that time. They did wrong to my own thinking, but I cannot resolve that issue in the past. I cannot go back there. I know about it, but I know we need to move ahead. It's enough of going back to the past. I agree with you. We cannot change the past. Never. We cannot resuscitate those people that were dead, that are dead now, that were there at that time. We cannot change their mind, but we can move ahead. But one thing I know from the past, it caused division, and division caused confusion, and confusion caused retardement. People don't progress when they're confused because they start moving around or they leave. I've seen people leaving the Urantia movement because we cannot show a united front. They were kind of disappointed at us because we said, oh, here we are. We have the Urantia book. We have the whole truth. We have the best truth. Yeah? You cannot even apply that truth in your own life. You disagree with each other, like all the Christian churches disagree with each other. So are we like those church? I don't want to be a church, but do we always disagree? Not to agree, or to agree to disagree, or whatever. But I know, for me, unity is a must in our movement. For the things that's coming ahead, just look at what happens in the world at this time. If we're not united, how can we hope to go through that era of hardship that's coming towards us. The division, more division. Look at the world, how much division there is. And those who know about that, those exploit division so they can rule better. And who do you think enjoys that and benefit from all of this? Who do you think? Who do we play to the, like the puppet to? Candy Garcia. He's happy that we fight with each other. He revels in this. He loves it. Because if this revelation fails, he gets to live longer on this planet. Is that what we want? That's the reality that I see. But anyway, I can go on and on about this. Okay, Baxter, it's your turn.
Thank you. As a reader who is not aligned to either side of this issue, in fact, was unaware that this issue even existed. I'd like to ask a question of you, if I could, Gaétan, and possibly, considering the answer, possibly humbly offer a suggestion. The question is, where does the impediment or the resistance to unity exist? Is it only at the administrative top of your organizations? And I say organizations plural, because I take it there are two sides. I don't know that, I'm gathering it. So I'm asking, where does the impediment to unity reside? Is it simply at the top of your administrative organizations? Or is it in the generality of the fellowship? Because what I'm hearing here is, if you people represent the generality, I don't hear any disunity or any desire for disunity. I'm hearing a desire to unite with your brothers on the other side of the wall. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the resistance to unity exists among you. I don't know. So that's my question, first of all, if I may, please.
Well, I didn't want to have this presentation to dwell on the disunity within the movement. That was not my principal idea. My principal idea was to focus.
Please don't.
What's that?
Please don't misunderstand. I'm not asking for a description of the problem. I'm just asking where the impediment to unity exists at present. I think the history is irrelevant.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your question also. I think the impediment is also sometimes at the highest level of your organization. Like most of people said here, usually the grassroots doesn't know anything about this problem. But we see this difference at the highest level, because when we try to do projects, sometimes we see the competition. And I would have to share with you many, many experiences I've had going around and be a witness to what disunity can cause. And it happens at many, many levels. There are the levels of the individual. You know, they in their mind, unity would mean uniformity. You know, well, why shouldn't we be all different? Why shouldn't we have multiple organizations? But if we go back to the creation of our movement, to the Brotherhood, the Revelator said, you need to have an organization, loose organization, so that other organization cannot sprout from the ground that would give a bad name to the Urantia book. So they needed an organization that would take the field. And that organization would promote the Urantia book. It's like would be so strong in unity that other organization could not compete with it. And that organization would have the mission to make sure that the Urantia book and its teaching would be well portrayed in the world. So the multiplication of organization, and at first, there was only one. Now there's two and more. There's more than one organization. And each one has his own mission, his own idea, and people start doing their own thing. But like I said, I don't want to dwell in that. most of these problems can be resolved when we have a 2 committee meeting together or 3 that discuss all those problems of unity at the organizational level and at the other level. But we're certain that the grassroots at some point need to be involved in all this. But that's for another discussion. So, yes, Gary.
Thank you. Okay, could I follow that, please, with the?
No need to apologize, Baxter.
Okay, thank you. I would like to offer a humble suggestion. If it sounds as if the impediment is merely at the top of the administrative pyramid. And I have found, for example, in social work, if I truly want to be effective, I have to not get paid. Because as soon as somebody is paying me to be a social worker, they tell me who to serve, when to serve, how to serve. They tie my hands so much that I can't really do any service. Now, in the spirit of what I just said, why couldn't the generality of your group, for example, advertise a meeting such as this and just invite everybody and ignore your leadership's ranting and railing against your doing so. If they cannot get on board with unity, then just unify without them. I presume they were elected. Eventually,
Yeah.
they'll just dissipate away. They'll dissipate away like fog if you just ignore them. And it's really up to the generality to elect people who will represent them, like any democracy, I guess. So, I mean, don't wait for the administration. Here's my humble offer. Don't wait for the administration to initiate this. Just do it. Do it without their money and without their blessing. Just do it and mix in love and unity with your fellow believers on the other side of that wall, and let the wall crumble between you and let the leaders just dissipate like fog. Thank you. That's all I.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you know what? There's actually an initiative of 2 committees, one from the fellowship and UAI, to meet together in the coming time, in the early future. I'm part of that committee on the part of UAI that will come together and discuss how we can resolve this issue and unite together. And there's been a survey that was sent out to all the members of UAI. There will always also be a survey sent out to the fellowship readership or membership, so they know about unity. So everybody will be informed about this. And then we'll have meeting and try to resolve the main issue. And once this is resolved, when we have the go-ahead to move ahead with unity, then that committee, the member of that committee would be enlarged, the number of members, to resolve the other problem of united 2 organizations together. So there are steps going around, and unity has been around. You know, I've been talking about it for a long time. So it's in the mind of a lot of people out there. But we're concerned with the young people today. And we're not attracting a lot of young people in our own organization. And there's a reason for that. And the lack of unity within our movement is an impediment to that. It's something that prevents young people to be attracted to something that has not our highest ideal to move forward. So anyway, that's all I want to say for now. But thank you for your comments. Really appreciate it. Okay, Gary, it's up to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll forego the drum roll. It's great to see everybody here. Some old faces and some new faces. And I don't know if anybody knows who I am, but I was membership chair for the UAI for 2 terms, signal from Kathy Jones. I viewed with great interest there today, and I know with Gaétan we work together on many missions. The love he has for Urantia and the book, and the 2 organizations, because they go for one goal, separate ways. But I do believe that
if you don't know about the past, then how can you plan for the future? And what I'm trying to get to is this, that for 34 years, this split has been going on. People have had many, many, many times to get it together, and it's nearly been there. And one thing has not fitted into somebody else's way of thinking. But you have to go back. I'm sorry if I may disagree with you, Gaétan, with this. You have to go back why it's all about. Now, I took over a membership chair in 2005, and we went to the Dominican Republic with Kathy Jones. And when I took over from Kathy, she gave me this. I'm about to show you. If many people don't know what that is, this is the special report. The Urantia Foundation ends its relationship with the former Urantia Brotherhood, April 1990. Without this, you can't move forward. People don't understand about that sort of split. And don't get me wrong, I know Marwin, who's fellowship, and we have a great feeling for each other, mutual understanding. There's no 8 or love or 8, but you have to have that. You have to understand what's in you. But when you understand what's in you, that's the basis for the leaders at the top to move. And you're right. As you know, in Africa and many other places, they're dying. They're screaming out for this new Jesus. You know, they say that it's funny, everything, Jerusalem, and everything is happening there today. And there are two splits, and they should come together. But this is the basis for that to come together. And it should be made available to everybody who reads the Urantia book. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. So maybe if anyone wants to read about this, contact Gary. I don't remember I might have read that, but anyway. But like I said before, my talk was about spiritual unity. And I would like more people to engage themselves in that talk as what does that mean for you, spiritual unity? Do you believe really in the Urantia movement that we have spiritual unity? Do you truly believe in your own mind you enact that spiritual unity in your life? Anyway, these are the questions that I wanted to ask of you about this presentation. Okay, Mark, it's your turn.
Hi, thanks, Gaétan. Just a quick bit of background. I have a foot in the fellowship and in the foundation because I do some work for both in UBIS in the foundation and in communications with the fellowship. What I was going to suggest might be a bit redundant because Gaétan, you said that the leaders are already taking initiatives to meet and to knock heads together and try and see the way forward. However, I was going to suggest that we don't leave this meeting without a concrete step forward. So if, as I think most of us are grassroots, you could say, and I think, well, the feeling is we all agree that unity is needed, or at least, if not organizational unity, but at least organizational collaboration and the end of competition and the end of duplication of work. Maybe we should together come up with a way to perhaps pressure the leaders. Now, you're a leader, Gaétan, so it's not as if you don't need the pressure to take this forward, but I was going to suggest something like, for example, leaving this meeting with an agreement that we will write a petition, circulate it among as many people as we can within all the organizations, and then present that petition to the leaders of the organizations as a way of expressing the need and the urgency of having some kind of, organizational peace and collaboration. So I think this is such a fantastic initiative you've taken, that I don't think it should just be a talking shop, because otherwise it'll end there. We should have some kind of concrete step forward, I think, from this. That's my suggestion.
Well, thank you, Mark. Well, there's already a petition that was sent out by Sue Sakambe, who is the president of the fellowship, Urantia.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people knowing about it. And so far, there was 650 signatures on that petition in favor of unity. And also,
I wasn't aware of that. Yes. Okay.
So, of course, anyone here can go back within their own organization, within their own study groups, and start talking about, hey, why don't we have unity? Let's put pressure on the leadership. We want unity. This is what I want. I'm with you on that. I want the grassroots to tell us, hey, that's all we want. We don't care about the rest of the stuff. We want unity. We want to unite. We want to work together. Now, we sent out a survey, UAI, about a week and a half ago. I don't know to how many people, I don't have the number exactly, but so far there are many people that have answered the survey. And there's more than 65% of people, and more than that are in favor of unity. Some are in favor with some condition, another percentage is favor. So there's a lot more people in favor of unity than there are people not in favor of unity. So we have a majority. Now, I'm anxious to see what the fellowship survey will give, if it's going to be the same. So now, as the leader that are there, will they carry that idea from the grassroots, that unity is essential, that's what we want? Or will they put blocks in place to prevent unity? I don't know. I don't want to put any blocks. I'm open for any solution. I want to move ahead with this. So let's hope.
You've given the impression, Gaétan, that from the fellowship side and from your side, there's no problem to this momentum continue going. So I don't. So what's the problem then? Where's the problem?
Well, there's no problem on my side.
You say the fellowship. You say the fellowship also has no problem, because the Sue is very much in favor.
So we'll meet together. We'll discuss what's the answer. What is in line to get the unity to happen. So there's going to be some negotiation. I don't want to get into that now. But what you can do now, what everybody can do here now, is pray for unity to happen. Pray so that we have wisdom to negotiate the right thing together, to come together. And sometimes people forget the power of prayer. I pray every day for unity. Well, if the foundation's going to be involved at some times, we will call on the foundation. But at this time, it's something between the two fraternal organizations.
Mm-hmm.
But I ask everyone to pray for that. It's important that everyone prays for that. Yes, Carol.
Oh, sorry, my internet's all messed up, so you can't see me. Sorry.
All right.
I grew up with the Urantia book. I can't remember it not being in my life from the 60s. I grew up and I moved out on my own. There was no internet. We communicated through mail. I was alone with the Urantia book. I had no study groups. I had nobody to talk to. I was reading it. I would occasionally call the foundation for questions and things like that. And apparently I was on a mailing list. And all this broke out. Here I am all by myself with children and a family, wanting help with my daily life and my spiritual life, and get a big fight sent to me in the mail. Booklets from so-and-so said this and so said that. Do you think I cared? I had a family raised. I had my own problems. The way I saw it was this was like divorce. You have two parties angry with each other for whatever their personal reasons are, and they wanted everybody to get involved in it. I didn't care. I don't care now. I mean, I care about the humans that are hurting. I don't care about the issues because it's personal to those individuals. The book is completely separate from that. God is completely separate from that. These are egos. These are egos saying, I have to do this and I have to do that. Well, you need to take the I out of it. You need to put God in it. What does God want? Forget about me. Forget about what I think. Forget about what everybody else thinks. Forget about trying to convince people I'm right. That is exactly how it came across to me as this mother who needed help with her life. I don't care. I don't care what everybody's opinions are. I don't care what all these arguments are. I need help. And every one of us needs to be service oriented. Everybody, from the top to the bottom. We do need organization. We need people who facilitate gatherings and facilitate that. Every single person needs to be service oriented, asking what God thinks, and not what the argument is, not what the fight is, not what the disagreements are. It was nasty. I mean, I was getting stuff in the mail that was completely, in my opinion, bizarre, and it had nothing to do with my spiritual journey. And if you guys want somebody's opinion who was on either side and didn't even care, you just got from me.
Thank you, Carol. Well, what does God want for us? He wants us to live in a better world. He wants us to love one another. He wants us to serve each other. He wants us to be in service to the others. He wants us to be happy. He wants us to be healthy. He wants us to have everything we need to lead a good life. He wants us to help others. But in order to do this on earth, he gave us the Urantia book. And the Urantia book is the cure to the effect that the rebellion caused on this world. This is why revelation is so important. It gives us a way out of the confusion. But we're so ingrained in that confusion that sometimes we don't see the light ahead. We're so ingrained in our own self that we forget the others. I'm with you with service. Every member's, or every reader that read the Urantia book should be in service to others. You cannot progress in this life without service. You can read the book all you want, but if you're not in service to others, there's no progress. That's part of the deal. So thank you for your comments. Yes, Rick.
Well, first, with Carol, I'd just like to say, Carol, I appreciate what you're saying. And I remember a few years ago, I did a presentation, and one of the things I said in that was that, you know, this unity issue is like a marriage counselor who's going through a divorce trying to tell me how to save my marriage type thing. So, you know, I think sometimes we get viewed that way, that we're, you know, somebody said earlier about how we're trying to talk about unity, but yet we have this unity issue. So, but anyway, so, and Gaétan, you know, I was there in 2010 when we did the meeting, and that was a very productive meeting, you know, where we put the two messages on mission statements side by side and all that kind of stuff. So, and then in 2016, when we had that effort again there, I think we got, what do we call it, the Unity Initiative or something like that. But I just like first to say something about spiritual unity. You know, there are two kinds, I think, an individual and the organizational unity type. But as far as spiritual unity, I think we can see that in action here today. I mean, we've got George is here from the foundation. We've got you know, people here from UAI, people from the fellowship. We've got Marvin with the Family of God, and we've got Don and Jeanette with the Christ Experiment. And of course, then there's Diane Lebrecq with her United Urantia family. And of course, Susan and I are part of the Center for Unity project now. So we've got all these diverse organizations, these diverse projects going on, and here we are. And, you know, I think we're even united here in this meeting in our desire for unity. So I think we have spiritual unity on the individual level. We all go to the same conferences, you know. There's none of the conferences say, well, you can't come if you're a this, or you can't come if you're a that. We all go to each other's conferences and have a great time together and love each other. So I don't think on the individual level, we have any issue with spiritual unity, certainly not in the Urantia community as far as I've known. So I think this Urantia community has more spiritual unity within it than any other organization on this planet, quite honestly. So, but as far as the organizational part, I think we often make unity a little more difficult than what it should be. You know, and to me, unity, and my thoughts about this kind of evolved over this last several years for sure, but unity is, all too often try to make it something to achieve, something to goal. That's what we're working for, is unity. But unity is actually a relationship, and unity is a result of how we treat each other and what we do and all that. So when we try to, you know, make a policy or a rule or a mandate about unity, you know, you can't legislate morality type things. And you can't legislate relationships either. So rather than trying to look at unity as something that we're striving for, unity is what will evolve from that. You know, service comes first, then friendship comes from that, and then teamwork comes from that, and then the unity will come from that. And, you know, and I think the Urantia book tells us about friendship. You know, friendship comes from, you know, the beginning of friendship is finding something that someone wants done and then doing that for them. And so I think that's kind of the aspect, or the perspective we should take with this unity issue on an organizational level, is because we've got so many different organizations now, and there's sure going to be lots of them in the future. But instead of trying to force this issue of unity, I think the first question, we have to start with the service aspect of it. And so the question I would encourage us to ask as organizations working with each other, and that's, what can we do for you? You know, if you're doing something, you've got a project going on, what can we do to help you with that? And if each organization asks that, rather than saying, well, we're doing this and we're doing that, we're going to do this, and this is what we're up to, that's great. We have to communicate all that stuff. But we should also be asking, well, what can I do for you? And I think if we take that perspective as the beginning of, you know, we talk about unity coming from working together. Well, that's the first question we should ask, I think. What can I do for you? And if you say, well, you could do this, I would appreciate you doing that for me. And then that creates the friendship. And then from friendship, as friends come together, and then you create teamwork. Teamwork results in unity. So I think maybe we've had this a little backwards, in my mind anyway, of trying to achieve unity, when what we should be doing first is asking each other, what can we do for each other to help serve each other and to really serve the people out there who are students of the Urantia book, and those out there who hopefully will be someday, that type of thing. But I think that's where it starts. Just what can I do for you? And I think that's where the beginning of the unity relationship should start. But that's it.
Well, you expressed what the master said. You don't need to think alike to be in spiritual unity with each other. So you express, and everybody here expressed their different ideas of what unity is. But at the highest level is, are we united with God within ourselves to do his own will? And the rest will come out in service and everything. But thank you for your comments, Rick.
Well, and if I can just follow up, that's our relationship with God when we're going to prayer. You know, the worship is thanking God for what he's done for us, and then asking, how can I be of service to you? And then that's how our personal relationship with God, that's the beginning of unity with God himself, I think.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Marvin, then Donnell and LAC, we're neatly at the end. So make your comment fast, please. Yes, Marvin.
So professionally, we all have professional backgrounds and orientations. Professionally, I've been a family therapist for 55 years. And one of the things I learned I did a lot of work with couples that were having problems, divorcing, etc. And in any relationship set of issues, one of the principles I learned was to be relentlessly solution oriented, to not get caught up in side justifications, history, stay oriented on solutions. And so in that spirit, I float it for you. I mean, to me, there is a relatively simple resolution to the issue with publications. And the problem is the issue of unity exists on multiple levels, as you've indicated, Gaétan. First has to be spiritual unity, which is a spiritual phenomenon. But then we have to form trusting relationships, which is why the conference gathering is so important. We need to be together in order to establish trusting relationships. But the solution to the practical problem of the publications, to me, is, if we have trusting relationships, then the proposal to me would be that the fellowships say, we like our edition, we like certain features of it, the 2 columns and the citation on every pair, whatever it is, the trade dress issues, and say to the foundation, would you be willing to co-publish with us? You publish all editions. We'll go ahead and we trust you to go ahead and execute on that, and we'll stop publishing our text. If you'll take our format and go forward with it, included in your set of publications. That's just one idea, right? It's a solution. The issue is, can we establish trust among the leadership sufficient to engage in the conversations long enough, relentlessly, to find a solution to that practical issue? And then if with that out of the way, then our spiritual unity could find fuller expression and even organizational unity, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that's things to come up in the future, whatever solution that we'll propose. I'm open to any solution, as long as they're wise and they respect the will of the Father. Thank you, Marvin. Yes, Donna.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you, Gaétan. It takes a lot of courage to put a subject like this out in the public with so many diverse backgrounds. So I really appreciate you taking the courage to do this. And I think the comments that Rick made are right on target. Building friendships across all organizations is so essential. And I just wanted to give this parting word so that no one goes away discouraged, because sometimes organizations can be like the Titanic when they're trying to move. And just remember that each of us has a power within our own domain to shape the course of how we want things to be. So while we're praying and hoping and contributing our efforts for a unified organization, don't diminish what you can do as an individual in your community, in your family, or with someone else to do outreach ministry and to pursue that and move ahead with it while you're waiting for the organizations, because they may end up having to catch up with us as individuals. So don't get discouraged and feel that until the organization changes, we can't start changing the world as individuals. And I'll just close with that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's service to the others. And I invite everyone to be in service to others. We don't need an organization to do our part. We're supposed to be second milers. So let's be those second milers. Thank you, Don. Yes, Alain, last comments.
Yes, very quickly. Hi, everyone. I'm only inspired to say, how about the Urantia United Mortals? We have our midway friends that are united. We could have the Urantia United Mortals as a name, of course. That's it. Just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Alain. Thank you. Now, we're going to leave, and I want you to leave with one thought that came to my mind. And that came in while I was preparing that presentation. It came in again while you were all expressing. And at the end, what can I leave you with? Well, there's this thing at the end of the book. There's somewhere around the end of the book where the midwayers are thinking, what would have happened if Paul and Abner would have joined together? Not exactly like this, they said it, but what if the message that would have been carried forward would have been the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man? You remember Abner wanted this message to be carried forth, and Paul changed that. So at some point, they had a disagreement. They did not unite because Abner was strong-headed, and Paul was a negotiator. He couldn't, resolve the issue with Abner. So are we going to repeat this story of the past? Are we going to carry the same message forward or carry different messages? So I'll leave that with you. So thank you for being with me and to be together all today to express those ideas about unity. And let's hope we live with more unity in the future. Thank you all.